Hello and welcome. I'm JP Miller of the Empire Report, and we are thrilled to hold this important congressional candidate forum in what is considered one of the most contested House races in the nation. I want to thank AARP New York for sponsoring this forum. Thank you to New York Now's Dan Clark for moderating, and thank you especially to the candidates for participating. To our viewers, this is your chance to hear directly from the major party candidates running for New York's newly drawn 18th congressional district, Pat Ryan and Colin Schmidt. We're going to learn and focus on issues important to New Yorkers 50 and over, who, as we know, they vote. And for more on that, we turn to a woman who knows a thing or two about the 50 plus population, AARP New York State Director Beth Finkel. Beth, take it away.
Thank you, JP. Thank you, Dan, for moderating. And thank you to the candidates for joining us. And most important, thank you, the voters, for tuning in and doing the most important thing you can do in a democracy, paying attention and participating. It's no secret that registered voters, 50 plus, cast their ballots at a much higher rate than the rest of the electorate. And that is particularly true in midterm elections and in every recent election. In fact, during this year's June primaries, voters 50 and over cast, and this is a number you got to remember, cast nearly 80% of all of the ballots in the primary election in Nassau County, and nearly 90% of all the votes cast in Suffolk County. I got to say that again. 80% of the voters on the June 28th primary of this year in Nassau County were 50 plus, and 90% were 50 plus in Suffolk. So we are very grateful for the Empire Report for hosting this forum, focusing on issues important to the 50 plus. And we are eager to hear where the candidates stand and what they plan to do about these issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Beth. Thank you to AARP and Empire Report for hosting this candidate forum today. The 18th Congressional District, as JP said, is a contested race, especially after redistricting this year. It was drawn a little bit differently, where we don't know how this race is going to shake up. That's not always the case in New York. Before we get to the questions and opening remarks, I want to just reiterate some ground rules that I've already explained to both candidates before we went live here. This debate, each answer will be limited to 2 minutes, except for closing statements, which will be limited to 1 minute. The candidates will not interact during this debate, which means that if I ask a question to one of the candidates, they cannot then ask the other candidate a question. So there won't be any crosstalk in that theme there. We also won't have both candidates on the screen at the same time at any point, as far as I'm aware. There will be no follow-up questions from me. This is your one and only chance to answer these questions to both candidates, and I will not be asking any follow-ups to these. I just said that. And if a candidate goes over time, their microphone may be cut off. That's in the discretion of our great technical people in the background. So with that, we will get started with the candidates for the 18th Congressional District. Pat Ryan is the Ulster County Executive. He is the Democrat in the race. Assemblymember Colin Schmidt is the Republican in the race. And we will start with the County Executive for opening remarks first. You have 2 minutes.
Hey, thank you, Dan. I want to thank AARP for hosting this and Empire Report. I'm a daily reader of Empire Report, so thank you. And to my colleague, Assemblyman Schmidt, good to be on with you and to see you again for this small d Democratic debate. To introduce myself to you all that I don't know, I'm Congressman Pat Ryan, currently representing New York's 19th district, including my home turf in Ulster County. I was born and raised here in Kingston, New York. My family's been in this area for 5 generations. And my wife, Rebecca, and I now have the 6th generation, 2 young boys, a 3-year-old Theo and 9-month-old Cameron. So there's certainly very little sleep in our house and very little spare time, but they keep us on our toes and remind me and us of what's really important. Growing up, my mom was a public school teacher here in Kingston, and she and my dad drilled into me the importance of community and being of service to something bigger than oneself. So as a young man, that meant going an hour south to West Point, where I proudly graduated in 2004, served 2 combat deployments in Iraq, and then came home and wanted to continue to serve this community that has always had my back. The last few years, I've served as Ulster County Executive. And throughout my time serving as county executive and now as a member of Congress, what I hear over and over from everyone, and especially seniors, how much economic pressure everyone is feeling at the gas pumps, grocery stores, healthcare bills, prescription drug prices, and everything in between. I have focused as county executive on introducing an inflation relief plan that cut our county gas tax in half to provide relief at the pumps, that proposed the single biggest property tax cut in 40 years in Ulster County history, provided small business relief, and a whole lot more. Now, as a member of Congress, I've been pushing to lower all the costs that we possibly can. I think most important, we finally got through legislation to lower and cap prescription drug costs and cap insulin costs, which I hear over and over is a huge point of pressure. I'm looking forward to talking a lot more with you. And again, thank you for having me.
Thank you for reminding me that you are already in Congress. I introduced you as the Ulster County Executive, but you won that special election in August and have been in Congress since then. So I apologize for that, and to our audience for that. Assemblyman Schmidt, who is in the Assembly, go ahead, you have 2 minutes.
Thanks, Dan, and thank you to the Empire Report and AARP for putting this forum together, and for everybody who's tuning in now or who might be viewing this again in the future. As mentioned, I'm New York State Assemblyman Colin Schmidt. I am proud to represent the 99th Assembly District, currently my 4th year in the New York State Assembly, where I serve as ranking member of the Assembly Local Governments Committee, which is the most bipartisan committee in state government. And I'm proud to be one of the most bipartisan legislators in the state of New York government. I also have the honor to serve as a sergeant in the New York Army National Guard, based down currently at Camp Smith in northern Westchester. I live with my wonderful wife, Nikki, and our adopted dog, Quincy, in New Windsor. We are blessed to call the Hudson Valley home. My wife is broker of our family 3rd generation business. I'm happy to be an agent with her as well. And we're just 22 days away. So to be able to interact, talk about issues that are important to the whole community, but particularly the 50+ community, is something I'm glad we're able to do. Since day one in the State Assembly, I've worked to prioritize the needs of seniors in our community and the 50+ community. One of the first pieces of legislation I actually introduced is the senior property tax freeze, a piece of bipartisan legislation which is critically needed here in the state of New York. Very proud just this past year to help pass the largest property tax break in modern history, as well as to fully suspend the gas tax as we deal with the outrageous inflation difficulties in gas, groceries, utilities, and everything else that our families are facing in the Hudson Valley. We have a lot of issues going on in this country: economic concerns, public safety concerns, concerns with safety, security of our border, and the humanitarian crisis and the national security crisis. And we also have to ensure our commitment to Social Security, Medicare, and some of the other programs we'll be talking about today. So again, thank you for tuning in, and I'm looking forward to the dialogue.
And Assemblymember Schmidt, we're actually going to stay with you for the first question, and we're going to stay with Social Security, actually. So the future of Social Security, as both of you know, is sort of unclear right now. There are a lot of ideas on what to do going forward with Social Security, and a lot of people who have paid into the system who would like to know where it's going. So the question to you, Assemblyman Schmidt, and to you also, Congressman Ryan, after, will be how would you protect earned Social Security benefits in Congress if you're elected in November?
Great. Well, thank you so much for, again, the opportunity to answer these questions. Social Security is a promise made between generations to ensure the financial stability of our seniors in retirement and on fixed income. It is critically important that we protect, preserve, and strengthen Social Security. There's a commitment that I'm making to all constituents of the new 18th Congressional District and the new House Republican majority we are elected in November, is a commitment to save and strengthen Social Security. We will ensure that not a single day is added to the retirement age, and we will ensure that not a single dollar is ever reduced from the benefits. We know that just last week there was over an 8% increase in the cost of living, the largest in over 40 years. But When you compare that to the current inflation crisis that we're in, it's simply not enough to cover the cost of groceries, to cover the cost of gas, to cover the cost to heat our homes here in the Hudson Valley and the Northeast going into the winter with the current prices that we are facing. So this is something that we need to continue to focus on, something that we need to be able to do more for our seniors who are dependent on Social Security and increase and strengthen. And that's our commitment, to increase and strengthen Social Security moving forward.
Thank you so much. Congressman Ryan, same question to you. How would you protect earned Social Security benefits for the future if you are elected to a full term next month?
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, and earned is exactly the right word. I think about both of my parents worked hard their whole lives. And, I don't talk about this very much, but right now my mom is struggling with some serious health issues. And for the first time in our family's lives, we've really had this tremendous anxiety of, will she have health care? And the costs are just astronomical. Will Social Security be enough to allow them to stay in their home and continue to put food on the table? So this is very personal to me. I know it's very personal to everyone in our audience. And it's a time of great anxiety. And unfortunately, a lot of the anxiety, as you alluded to, Dan, is because we have seen very dangerous and alarming proposals from national Republican leaders to either sunset or privatize Social Security. I want to be crystal clear. I will do everything that I can. I will fight with every ounce, just as I've fought to serve this country in combat, to protect and defend Social Security for my parents and all of our seniors and 50 plus. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can Google or go and search the National Senate, U.S. Senate proposal for the Republican Party is to sunset Social Security. Republicans have consistently, every time they've taken power, tried to rip the rug right out from under us. We cannot allow that. And that is something that I will fight and push on. Also, in terms of already delivering, I've been a member of Congress just for a few weeks now, but I'm very proud that in that time, we've already been working and fighting to help bolster and strengthen the support that we all receive from Social Security. We increased payments 8.7% just recently, which doesn't get us all the way there, but provides a lot of help and relief that I know we all need. And we had the first decrease in Medicare premiums for the first time in decades. So we're lowering costs, increasing benefits. That is what I will continue to fight to do in Congress and frankly, to stand against these very concerning Republican proposals to weaken or privatize.
Thank you. And we're going to stick with you for the next question as well, Congressman. So the next question is along the same lines, but we're talking about Medicare for this question. The conversations around Social Security and Medicare are similar in a lot of respects, in the sense that we don't really know what the future of those programs are going to be, especially with Medicare, talking about healthcare for New York seniors and U.S. seniors. So if you're elected to a full term in November, how would you work to protect Medicare? I know it's probably a similar answer, but go ahead. You have 2 minutes.
Well, there's two key imperatives here on Medicare. And again, just to reiterate, given the challenges very forefront for my family's mind, and frankly, keeping me up at night thinking about my mom, is how we protect and bolster Medicare. So one, again, the same dangerous proposals that I just talked about for Social Security are on the table from Senator Rick Scott, who heads the National Republican Senate Committee. And again, you don't have to take my word for it. It's right out there in bold print, and it's something we have to stop. So one is sort of protect and defend the sanctity and strength and bedrock nature of Medicare and what it does. The second thing that we need to do is bolster the program. So, for example, the recent Inflation Reduction Act that finally, for the first time in decades, gave the U.S. federal government the power it should have had to negotiate with real leverage to bring down and cap prescription drug prices. We finally defeated the powerful, greedy pharmaceutical lobby, and that was because of concerted work from the president and the Congress, all working together to provide desperately needed relief and bring down prescription drug prices. We have to continue to push that forward even further. The other thing that I strongly support, and again, this is from seeing firsthand as my dad has suffered with hearing loss, Medicare doesn't cover hearing, dental, and limited vision. We have to expand coverage to these same sorts of services that we all have earned and deserve in terms of building out and adding dental, vision, and hearing within Medicare. So those are some of the key things that I will continue to fight for.
Thank you very much. Assemblymember Schmidt, same question to you on Medicare. If you're elected, how would you work to protect Medicare for the future?
Thank you for the question, and certainly prayers are with Pat's family as they struggle through their health issues, and a lot of us are impacted. And my own stepfather currently battling serious cancer, so we're all going through a lot of stuff in our communities, and our best wishes to everybody who is ill. And Medicare is our nation's commitment to the health and well-being of our seniors. And we must always protect and expand that program to be able to help those who benefit from it. We have the best health system in the world, the best doctors, the best treatments, the best hospitals. And we need to ensure that Medicare program provides access to all our seniors to those top-rate services, ensuring affordable prescription drugs, ensuring access to the personalized care that seniors want, that they feel comfortable with, that gets them the health outcomes that they deserve and that they need. And that is my commitment. As my commitment to the residents of the New York 18th Congressional District, if you send me to represent you in Washington, D.C., and it is the commitment of the House Republican majority, when we are elected, we will save and strengthen Medicare. We will increase access to services and ensure better health outcomes and more affordable health outcomes for those who benefit from the Medicare program.
Thank you. And we're actually going to stay with you for the next question, Assembly Member. So this is on prescription drugs, and both of you have touched on this just a little bit. We're talking about lowering prescription drug prices. We all, I hope, know that Americans pay the highest prescription drug prices in the world, and especially for our audience today, many of them are on a fixed income. Assembly Member, if you're elected, what can you do to keep the ball rolling, reducing prescription drug prices?
Absolutely. We need to ensure that we have access to affordable prescription drugs for our 50-plus community, but also everybody in our community as well. And almost from the beginning of my time in the Assembly, I was one of the only Republicans who was willing to step up and join with prominent Democrats on the other side of the aisle to work on protecting and preserving our local community pharmacies. Our local community pharmacies are really the entry point for healthcare and healthcare access in our communities, particularly for the 50-plus community. They provide access to affordable prescription drugs from a trusted expert. There are local pharmacists who they know and who they trust. I was proud to work on those issues in the Assembly, and I look forward to continuing that work down in Washington, D.C. And the federal government, has several things they can do and continue to do. We have a great investment in advanced pharmaceutical and creating new advanced cures and treatments. We need to continue that investment, and we need to increase that investment. We need to ensure that the federal government has the power to negotiate reduced prescription drug costs. We need to ensure access to generic medications. We also need to increase coverage, prescription drug coverage, in Medicare and through the exchange.
Thank you very much. Congressman Ryan, same question to you. I know you talked a little bit about what has already been done in terms of the Inflation Reduction Act, but how do you keep that momentum going if you're elected to a full term? I don't know if that's the end of the conversation, just having the bill and having that stronger negotiating power.
Well, the reason I bring up, thanks, Dan. The reason I bring up what's already happened is I'm a big believer, as I've learned in combat and running my own business and now leading in government, actions speak louder than words. So I think it's important to recognize that when this landmark legislation was introduced just this year, the Inflation Reduction Act, to finally, after decades of fighting the pharmaceutical lobby, to finally lower and cap prescription drug prices, zero Republicans, there might have been one or two, virtually zero Republicans voted to do that because they are bought and paid for by the pharmaceutical lobby. And I'm sorry for being so blunt, but this is very personal to me. It's very upsetting to me that seniors across our country, including all of our families, are paying for that greed right out of our pockets at the time that we can least afford it. So to be clear, this law limits out-of-pocket drug costs for seniors at $2,000 per year and caps insulin costs. 1.3 million New Yorkers have diabetes. That's a huge deal in and of itself, in addition to capping all the prescription drug costs. But to your question, Dan, we have to keep pushing further. There were attempts to bring down the insulin costs even more, which unfortunately were blocked by the pharmaceutical lobby. So I will continue to fight against that corporate greed coming directly from them, and they're not even trying to hide it at this point. So we just have to dig in our heels and continue to push and advocate on that. And again, in terms of additionally expanding Medicare, bringing down or adding the dental, vision, and hearing also just helps overall lower total out-of-pocket costs. Again, as I said in the beginning, what I just hear over and over and over is, it's death by 1,000 cuts here between my Central Hudson utility bill, between my my gas at the pump, grocery stores, and then you add in housing costs, you add in healthcare costs, and it just doesn't add up. So that's why I'm proud to have cut our county gas tax, to lower our county property tax to the biggest level since the year I was born, 1982. And we have to continue to do that at the federal level. That's what I'm fighting for every day as your member of Congress.
Thank you so much for that. And this is the last question before we get to closing remarks, and it goes first to Congressman Ryan. We're talking about long-term care. It's a big issue. It came up a lot during the pandemic, but continues to be a persistent issue and has been for, I think, quite some time. How do we make long-term quality, affordable care? How do we make it more affordable, especially for people who want to stay at home? That question goes to you first, Congressman Ryan.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for being so sort of sharing all these personal stories, and hopefully it's not baggage, but we just lost my grandmother this year, and a lot of it, and I know a lot of us have lost loved ones between COVID and other challenges health-wise, and a lot of it was due to poor quality of care in her long-term care facility. And I think a lot of this is we have turned this into a for-profit enterprise where we are essentially selling out our seniors so that folks that I don't even know can make these record-breaking profits. So we have to get that profit motive out of healthcare and get the humanity back into our healthcare. The other thing that we need to do is recognize that long-term care needs to be treated with the same seriousness and urgency and resources from government at every level as we treat our hospital system. That's certainly not happening right now. So there's a lot of legislation that I've supported and will continue to support at the federal level to put those sorts of things into place. But I think it all just comes back again to sort of the core values of getting the profit motive out, getting humanity back into our care, and just putting control back in the hands of us rather than sort of these corporate mega companies that have been buying up all the senior facilities across our state and our country.
Thank you. Assemblyman Schmidt, same question to you. If elected, how can we make quality long-term care more affordable, especially for people who want to stay at home?
Well, long-term care is healthcare, and we need to have more folks view it that way. We need to ensure that there are affordable, quality long-term care coverage, Medicare, other insurance plans. That's critical. But we also know that we have so many loving family members who have stepped up to care for their loved ones at home. And studies show that when long-term care can be accomplished at home, the outcomes are that much stronger. That's why in the state legislature, I've worked in bipartisan fashion to support initiatives to increase funding for families who are caring for their loved ones at home. And in Washington, we'll continue to push to make sure that we can provide tax credits for families who are taking on, in a compassionate way, the care of a loved one. And I think when we're looking at long-term care, when we're looking at the cost of prescription drugs, Medicare, Social Security, we need to hone in on what's going on here in our district and the option between both candidates that are before you. It's easy to point to vague figures that are other places, but I encourage all voters to listen to what was spoken here today and the strong commitment that I have made and the next House Republican majority has made with our commitment to America to secure and strengthen Social Security, Medicare, ensure we have affordable access to quality prescription drugs, and to ensure that we have viable long-term care when available and when preferred at home, and to serve all of it in our community, particularly the 50-plus population that lives here in the beautiful Hudson Valley.
Thank you so much. And that actually brings us to closing statements, which we will start with the Assembly member. Go ahead. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you to the Empire Report. Thank you to AARP. We certainly appreciate the opportunity to discuss these issues with 22 days to go into the election. I'm asking for your vote and support on November 8th so that I can bring my proven track record of bipartisan work and put it to work in Washington, D.C. The issues of the 50-plus community are the issues of our entire community. We've talked about preserving and strengthening Social Security, Medicare, working to continue to push to more affordable prescription drugs, the long-term care items that I've worked on in the legislature and will work on in Washington, D.C. I need your vote to be able to continue to deliver for our communities, ensure that we restore really a check and balance in Washington, D.C., get rid of one-party control. And it would be an honor to represent the Hudson Valley, to tackle the economic issues, the law enforcement issues, the issues at our southern border, and the issues that matter to all the families of our district. God bless you, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Congressman Ryan, over to you for your closing statement. You have 1 minute.
Whoops, somebody muted me. Sorry. Thank you so much, Dan. Thanks to everybody. I'm not sure how many people are on, but we can't see you. But thank you for tuning in. Thank you for caring about our democracy and believing in what this country is about. As I said in the beginning, I love this country. I love this community. I put my life on the line, 27 months in combat, because I believe that we are the greatest country in the world, because we take care of each other, especially our seniors and especially those who have worked their whole lives to just have some sense of security. And as I talked about, to now see through my parents' eyes how that insecurity manifests as costs continue to rise. And then we have to just fight with everything we can to bring down those costs, to provide that relief, and to protect these bedrock programs that you all have invested in and earned, and make sure that they are not subject to the partisan political attacks that have come too long and have already been telegraphed. Maybe the House has said that they will protect, but certainly the Senate Republicans have said otherwise. So that's very concerning to me. I will do everything I can, fight with every ounce I have to protect and serve all of you and every single resident of our great district. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you to Congressman Pat Ryan, the Democrat, and Assemblymember Colin Schmidt, a Republican, both running in New York's 18th Congressional District, a new district this year that we don't really know how it's going to turn out. It'll be really interesting. Thank you again to AARP and Empire Report for hosting this really, really important debate. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. I'm going to toss it back to JP Miller from the Empire Report.
Wow, that was awesome. Thank you, Dan Clark, for moderating. You did a great job, as always. Thank you to AARP New York for sponsoring. Thank you to the candidates for participating. We are not done yet. Tomorrow, Tuesday at 1 p.m., we have the candidates for the 22nd Congressional District Francis Knoll and Brandon Williams participating in a similar forum. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you for watching today, and we hope you join tomorrow as well.